Hey everyone, it's the Honey Badger here, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on the 720. Specifically, we're going to be installing a small under-the-seat subwoofer. So if you have a vehicle that's small, or if you have a pickup that's smaller, and a big subwoofer is not going to fit in it very well, an under-the-seat one can be great. I was doing a little bit of work in my dash area, just kind of fixing a bunch of stuff, and I was like, you know what? The audio is horrible in my pickup. We need to increase the volume and the sound, and I think this is going to do the trick. So let's take a look at the product real quick. All right, here's a quick look of everything included. We got the sub, which does have some heft to it, so that's nice, good weight to it. It does come with some mounting hardware if you want to mount it with that specifically, but obviously we have just about everything else we're going to need. Our wiring, we got a control switch for the power or volume. We got obviously our connections to it and to the head unit, grounds, fuses. Just about everything we should need, which is great. Like I said, everything should be included, you know, and we do have this little user manual. So we got that to walk us through what's on the back, what all does what, and we should just be able to plug and play everything in. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna hook up some of the stuff we can get back here before we put this in place, and then we'll run our wires where they need to go. But just something I noticed is this actually does have a couple of options. So it actually has multiple input options. Specifically, it has a high and a low. So we're gonna use low because our head unit has these as options, but some head units, depending on what your head unit is, may not have these. So you can run it through the high. Do not run both. You do not need to run both. That's actually a bad thing. We're gonna use it through the low, which is gonna be easier. This is what you'd use for the high side, and it would wire to the plug on your head unit. If, again, you don't have the lows. But we're gonna use the lows, so good to see we have a couple options. Our remote's gonna be super easy to plug in for that power. We already got our ground in. We're just gonna get a couple more in, and we're gonna get it in the back of the truck, and then we'll just get everything plugged in, and we'll run our wire to our battery. That's gonna be our main, like, little bit of effort, I guess you could say, but let's just go to that. All right, so we're gonna actually run our positive cable through our firewall real quick. So on a Nissan 720, at least, there's a really good spot right here where this, let's get down in here. Get down in here real quick. This pops out, and I actually did run a wrench through it somewhere, but this will go through here. So we'll actually run it through it, and then we'll pop this gasket back in. But it's really easy to get through the firewall over here, and then it just pokes out on the other side nice and easy. We'll look at it from the other side. All right, and on the inside of the 720, just underneath the dash, we should see, oh, there it is, just in the back. There's this little red wire peeking through, and that should be, yep, that's what we need. We'll pull that through, and now we're into the cab. All right, since we got our cable running through the firewall, then we needed to cut it and get it fed through this big fuse that will be near the battery. You wanna leave about, I'd say 6 to 12 inches. You want it fairly close to the battery. So we want to do anything more than 18 inches. This is about 10-ish inches. So we're gonna find a nice place to just kind of mount this out of the way. We'll get it hooked up in a little bit. We're not gonna hook it up quite yet, but we got this taken care of, and this is where it'll connect to the battery terminal. Now time to get the rest of it plugged into the subwoofer and kind of put in the rest of the vehicle. All right, one other thing that we need to make sure that we get plugged in before we get everything in is on the back of the head unit, we have a couple of different diagrams. This is mostly for the speakers, and then we have our ignition. The REM is the one we want to use, or we want to plug this cable to, and it will go up to the REM up here. That actually just makes sure that this is powered off when the vehicle's off. This head unit should send it a signal to let it know to be on or off, and it should be that one. And luckily in my vehicle, that's the only one not being used. It weirdly says power antenna on it. Must do the same thing. It turns the antenna on and powers it up when the vehicle's on, and then turns it off when it's powered off. So functions the same. It's probably used for both. So we're gonna get it in here, and then we'll run the wire, and we'll plug it in, or at least we'll splice it into the wire hanging out the back of that little connector with this, and that will match up. All right, time for a little status update. Things that you're gonna wanna do or do next. So we got our blue cable ran up into where our head unit is gonna sit, and we got it spliced in to our REM. So that is going to control the power to the unit. So that's good, that goes through the dash. We just can get underneath our dash really simple and run it through there, so nothing too difficult. And where that is going, at least on this pickup, is up in here. And where that is gonna go, let's get some light, it's dark, there we go. So that's coming up and coming down through here. We ran all of our cables, so this was the power control at least, and then we have obviously from our battery is also coming down through here, and they're going to come out this part down here. So it's just kind of, they're temporarily through there. A couple of these need to obviously move, and I'm going to be able to then run it down along the edge and seam under the carpet. I took just the little kick plate thing off, so I'll run it down through here, and then we'll sneak it where we're going to put it right back here. So that is now it's really just kind of getting the cables lined up. Like I said, these ones are already plugged in. We then will need to ground because the ground isn't connected, and then we'll get from the battery screwed in there, and then this is going to be easy. We're going to do those now real quick. We have the cables hanging here out where they're going to plug in, and they're just hanging. We're going to get that also doing the exact same thing. We'll get them all tucked away, and then really it's just a matter of getting those last two plugged in and everything just kind of neatly tucked away. That's about it. So let's move on to that. All right, so we ran our cables underneath. You can see them here up front. They go underneath the carpet, and we got our trim back on. We also got our ground in down underneath here as well. Our ground's running backwards back this way, but this is all covered up. Seatbelt's undone at the moment because we needed to get that up so we could get the carpet up, but we'll get that back down in a second. But we do have everything plugged in back here. We'll deal with cable management later. We have them zip tied neatly for now. We'll see what we want to do. That's also not going to be, it's not mounted at the moment. I'm probably going to actually mount that in the back somehow. It doesn't quite fit under this seat because I have a really low profile bracket on these Sparco seats, but it's going to sit nicely back here. It fits great in this area. So we're going to deal with that in a second, but we're all plugged in. Next, we're going to just get the head unit back in and make sure everything's plugged into it, get power to the battery, and then we're going to give this thing a shot and see how it sounds. So up here, there was really not a whole lot to do. We have our wires ran through that will go into the subwoofer. We also have, like I said, the little power cable ran through here as well. The big one was right here. This is the cable, at least on ours, was the antenna or the REM. We got it all connected and to each other, and that's about it. Now all we're going to do is put that head unit in and plug this in. That is quite literally it, and then we'll figure out where we're going to run the power, and I think I'm just going to mount it to the side over here. We'll figure that out, but that can just kind of hang for the time being, but let's get that back in, and we should be good to go. All right, we're at that point. The head unit is back in, everything's plugged in. I just have the controller coming out from the side, just hanging out. I'm gonna mount that in a second. Not worried about that. Everything functions without that needing to be mounted. So put that wherever you want to in your vehicle. But everything's mounted, everything's ran. We got our interior pieces back in. Cables are tucked away and hidden, and everything goes back to the sub that's just right back there. So now it's a matter of firing it up and seeing how it sounds. All right, there we go. We are all wrapped up on the subwoofer installation. Everything went well. I actually did replace the two little 4-inch speakers up front while I was in there. Super easy to do, and I had some on the way, so I threw those in too at the same time. When I fired everything up, it did all work, and I was kind of like, a little bit underwhelmed. Didn't think it was that great, but then I realized, you know what? There's settings on the subwoofer itself. Maybe those need adjusted a little bit. Once I cranked those a little bit, tweaked them, changed them, and got everything dialed in, wow, it packs way more punch than I thought that little thing could actually make. So it sounds really, really good. I'm actually very surprised, very pleased with actual quality and what it actually turned out like. So super surprised, really. At first, when it just turned on, I was like, good. It got the bass out of the speakers. It sounds nice. It sounds well-rounded, but it didn't really have big punch. It really didn't have like really good, strong bass. But then once I tweaked those settings, holy cow, world of difference. I like I could get this thing really bumping now. So very surprised. Turned out really well. Like I said, links to this stuff down below in the description. If you need 4-inch speakers, I'll also link the ones that I put in too. So if you're looking for all this stuff, even with my really, really cheap head unit, this entire installation for all the sound stuff in this pickup's like $150. So it's really not that expensive. To do all of this, to get it sounding about 1,000,000 times better than stock. So highly recommended if you have an old pickup and it just doesn't make good audio. So I'll leave you all those links. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you did find it helpful. And then also make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on future content. Other than that, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.